So
where were you, Dan?
Yeah. Oh, and you were talking about what resonates from a head coach inside a locker room, and I'm wondering if you can speak to that generally, and then more specifically in terms of what Lovey did that guys responded to for the duration of his 9 years here.
Yeah, and I heard you guys talking about it while I was waiting to come on in, and it's a great point because I also think winning in Chicago is different, right? Winning in this city, winning in that building, getting things moving in the right direction, as we have seen now, is not easy to do, right, at Hallis Hall. I think that's been proven, and that is a fact. And find a way to win there, change the culture in that building, get things moving in the right direction. And like you said, Dan, 2000, we started winning from 2005 on. But if you look at from when I first got here, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, we won. We started losing again in 2002, 2003. I mean, it just took a while to get things moving in the right direction. And the one thing Lovey did was he was consistent, right? We all bought into what he was selling. He was a good football coach, got things moving in the right direction. We all believed he created a culture. But a lot of things that happened was players developed, right? Like look how long I think Brian Urlacher's drafted in 2000, right? And then we get to 2005, 2006, he develops in his career. That's what has to happen in that building, guys. They have to get football players in there who develop, become blue chip type football players who become their culture. One question I asked going into the years, who are the Chicago Bears in that locker room? By that, I mean, who's been there 8, 9, 10 years? Who, when you talk to people about what do we do? How do we win football games? This is how we do it here. Who are the leaders in the Bears locker room? Not only do you have to get the coach in there, but you have to get so many people in there to develop your culture, to get it moving in the right direction. Lovey did the things that every good football coach does, right? The consistent, they preach their message. They tell you how you're going to win football games, right? We believed in running the football and playing defense. And then we all bought into that, and we all did that.
This segment right now on The Score with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Bosch Power Tools. What hard workers deserve. Olin, let me follow up on that. How much personnel needs to change on the Bears in order to achieve culture? Or do you think that those players, that core exists and they just need a better coach to mold it?
Well, I think they have a lot of good football players, right? I think on that defense, when you lose Andrew Billings and Jaquan Brisker, that really hurts you, right? That really hurts your ability to stop the run. And when you talk about culture, you talk about, just look at the offensive side of the ball, guys. You talk about running the football, right? Well, you got to get an offensive line in there, right? You can't put all your money in the receiving core, right? And the tight ends and the running back who's more of a scat back, who's not a downhill type running back. So you built a dome team at Soldier Field. When you look at their football team and their offensive line plan obviously didn't work, right? And they haven't drafted offensive linemen. Just look at the Seattle Seahawks, right? Their right tackle is a guy by the name of Abraham Lucas. Now, he has played a ton of games, but he is a right tackle. And guess who got drafted one pick before him? Velus Jones, right? So that's just, you're just talking about what you're trying to develop in your football team. And that's why you try to convince people that when we talk about this word and you define this word culture and what it is, it's the people you bring into your building. It's the kind of guy you bring in there. And that's why when they lose a guy, their culture, their foundation wasn't strong. That's why they lose one or two guys like Andrew Billings, Jaquan Brisker, and then they can't stop the run. Right, they can't stop the run versus teams, and they got a team coming up this week who runs the hell out of the football, right? So it's going to be tough up there at Green Bay for this defense. We'll see how they perform, but it's just something that you're always trying to define of what we want to be. Okay, this is the football team we want to be. Let's bring guys in the building that create that culture for us, whether it be in the weight room, lifting weights, leading, watching film. They, like you guys know, they have a lot of names up there at Hallis Hall right now, right? They have a lot of guys who you say, man, that guy's a good football player when you look at their roster, but they just haven't taken a step. They haven't played at a very high level, right? Who's the Pro Bowlers? Who's the All-Pros? Who's the guys on that football team that late in the game in critical situations you turn to make the play, to make the difference, to win the football game?
Olin, if you're Ryan Poles' boss and you're looking at the offensive line in its current state and you say, look, you told us in September that this was the best depth you had ever had at that position, and yet 4 guys entered the year with either durability or reliability issues, and they ended up having durability or reliability issues. What do you see through the lens of an offensive lineman when you see the way a general manager who is a former offensive lineman put together this particular line?
Yeah, there was a lot of questions that we talked about for since he got here 3 years ago, right? Since his first draft, when he started to draft for 2 cornerbacks. came back and just kept seemed like he was avoiding taking offensive linemen, avoiding to putting more assets in that room. And we kept talking about, man, you got to put more players in there who you can depend on in case there's a problem. You know, when he skipped taking a number one center in the draft 2 years in a row, and Cam Jurgens and John Michael Schmitz, you start to get a little bit worried about, okay, you don't have enough young players in there to develop. And a lot of people would say to me, man, I know you worked with Braxton Jones, which I did 1 year, right? I trained with him for a couple of months, but you keep saying put guys in there to challenge him. I would say, man, if you're a good football player, you're not scared of competition, right? There's not enough guys in the NFL who block guys that if you can block, you'll play in the NFL. So you don't really care how many guys they bring in. You just keep beating them up. Like that. That's the point of the NFL, right? That the most elite football players are there. You looked at Ryan Bates. You looked at Nate Davis. That story went on forever. The Nate Davis story, feel like, right? It's like, that's like, I remember I told somebody in August, I told Big Cat Williams in my gym, I said, they got to get rid of that guy already, right? He's affecting your culture, right? That's what I'm talking about, right? You give money to a guy who doesn't want to play football, and then he's not showing up and playing football, and you're wondering what's wrong with your culture. I'm not. I know what's wrong with it, right? It's the guys you put in your building. So like that's why, and I remember him saying, "Oh, you would get rid of Nate Davis." I would say, "Yes, I can't let him affect my team like that.
Yeah,
I can't let him do that to me." And then you bring Bates to play center, and he doesn't play center. And Tevin Jenkins, he's just in and out too much, even when he plays well. So you got to bring in guys who come in to compete, to get after people on that offensive line. You could see that offensive line could be a major problem, and it ended up being one. I mean, the last game they played, they had 4 guys in positions you didn't think they were going to be in to start the year.
Yeah, it's such a great point, man. I mean, we talked about Nate Davis a lot, but it's true to get down in the weeds to talk about just how much he affected the offensive line in kind of a chain reaction of bad events. This segment with Olin Kreutz is sponsored by Busey Bank, building business, growing wealth since 1868. Mark Grody and Dan Weeder are in for Mully and Haugh this morning. The other big question, too, Olin, here is how do you characterize Caleb Williams this season, and how should we, for me, the question that I've been asking a lot lately is how should we evaluate Caleb Williams this season?
It's a great question because the same thing we said about Justin Fields, right? Did he have enough talent for us to evaluate him? Did he have enough, a good enough coaching staff for us to evaluate whether we should keep Justin Fields or move on? And to be honest with you guys, I'm in the same spot with Caleb Williams. Look, I couldn't imagine being a rookie center and then walking in one day and say, you know what, Olin, we're going to fire the OC. Oh, right on, man. You know, that's awesome. Oh, we're going to move on from your O-line coach. And by the way, we're going to fire the head coach and put the guy in charge who's really not in anybody's meetings because he's the for me, it would be the run game coordinator. Well, he's the run game coordinator. Oh, right on. And we're going to have a new defensive play caller. All I'm saying, guys, so much chaos in this year. I'm basically at the same point I was when I watched Caleb's college film. Tons of talent. A lot to work on, right? You can tell his under center footwork, his playing from under center, he struggles with, right? And he has to get better at that. He struggles with, going through his reads, getting the ball out quickly. He makes great plays, throws the ball well. Looks like he's leading his football team. He's competing every week. But as far as evaluating Caleb Williams this year, no chance. I got no chance to evaluate what he's being told in those meeting rooms. Has it been consistent? No. It hasn't been consistent, right? Waldron's not here anymore, right? They got rid of Getsy, go get to Waldron, put Thomas Brown in charge, tell Thomas Brown he's going to be the head coach, but then he's got to go home, fly to Charlotte. These things, guys, confuse me, right? So I don't know where I am with Caleb Williams. Obviously, not enough points. I think they got 10 points a game in the last 6 games. It's just been a crazy year, and to try to evaluate a young quarterback after all he's been through, we just talked about the offensive line problems. And I imagine, guys, as you guys know, it takes so long to install an offense. It takes so long to know all the ins and outs and all the adjustments you got to make during the game. Oh, they brought that blitz in that play. This is what we do, right? There's so much learning that goes into to executing an offense that Caleb Williams has been through. I don't know how many offenses now. I feel like I've watched 4 or 5 different offenses this year when I turned the film on. So no chance I got to evaluate Caleb Williams.
That's such a great answer. And I love that you said got to lean on the tape that you saw from USC, because that's kind of where I am too. Like, although, like as I said at the beginning of the show, if you look at Caleb Williams this season, if you just look at what he has done, and just as a quarterback, not as a rookie, not giving him any of the excuses, it was a below average season for him. There are probably more negative moments, negative games for Caleb Williams, but you got to look at it all. And I guess my follow-up question is, Olin, and maybe this is just as much for me as it is for the fans listening to the score right now, is great and elite still on the table for Caleb Williams? Has anything that has happened this year tarnished that possibility for Caleb Williams, or do you look at that tape and say, yeah, that's still what this guy can be?
Oh, I mean, we saw throws last week, right? That were amazing. I mean, there was one. He was in the end zone. I think it was second and 16 or 17. He threw an out route to Roma Dunze, I think. And the cornerback who was Witherspoon, who's a great player out of the University of Illinois.
ILL.
He's right there, right? And I think to myself, man, that ball's going to get picked off, right? It's a little bit of an out route, and he's sitting on it. And, man, Caleb just whips it by him. I mean, it looked like Witherspoon was shot. He didn't pick it off for a pick six, right? So that talent, that what everybody saw, like the generational quarterback, all still there, right? All still there, ready to be developed. It's just hard to talk about where Caleb Williams is in his career, what Caleb Williams has done. And I know it's a hot topic, right? I know it's a hot topic on ESPN, on Twitter. I know everybody wants to talk about, especially after two rookie quarterbacks we watched play last night. You're thinking, man, where is that for the Chicago fans? Where is that for the Chicago Bears? Where is that for the city of Chicago? But as far as Caleb goes, man, you cannot look at this year and everything the organization has put him through. And we heard that coming into the draft, right? That his camp was worried about that. Now you're seeing why. Now you're seeing why people are worried about putting quarterbacks in Chicago and say, oh, wow, I mean, guys, I mean, we're going to fire the OC, fire the head coach, move all these moving parts, but it's not that big of a deal. What are you guys talking about? You know what I mean? Like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. Of course, going through that is hard for a young quarterback. Of course, listening to it, what did he tell us right after they fired Shane Waldron? I really haven't talked to Thomas Brown much. And I thought, oh, great. That's great. That's exactly what we want to do. So, yes, Grody, all still there. We've all seen the talent. We've seen the wild plays. Now he's just got to function from the pocket in the system, whatever system they're running, right? Whatever offense it is, function from that. They've been trying to do so many different things this year. And I know you guys watch the film. You tell me that the offense has gelled, that it looks like it's stacking plays, that plays are working on each other, that they're setting guys up. No way.
Nope, not at all.
Yeah.
No, there's from game to game, there's a new adventure every single time, and it seems like each show is its own little, or each game is its own little soap opera. Olin, this has been an emotional roller coaster with you today. Losing you for a couple of minutes and then getting you back and talking about Caleb has been very emotional.
Hey, I'm a typical Bears offensive lineman. I'm in, I'm out. You never know what's going to happen.
I am looking forward to speaking of emotional, Olin, one more time that I get to talk to you and Pat and Mully this Sunday. I will be at Lambeau Field with my podcast partner, Dan Weeder. So I'm looking forward to that and hearing you guys on the pregame this Sunday.
You know, the only thing we're taking to North is the podcast. We got the best podcast. It's the only thing we've done.
It's the little wins. Olin, you're the best. Go Illinois, man.
Yeah, I.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I.